Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So far, New Year economic policy in Washington is all about the debt ceiling. You know this, but I want to reset the table. The statutory debt ceiling of $31.4 trillion was reached last Thursday, but the Janet Yellen Treasury can finagle around, so the federal government will continue to borrow for another 6 months or so, thereby postponing the really true fun, high drama moments until the summer. We have, as you might guess, two political points of view on this debt question. Joe Biden and Democratic leaders want a clean debt bill without any spending cuts. In fact, the president doesn't want to negotiate at all. Kind of like the fiscal version of I have no regrets, and there's no there. But there is someone there. His name is House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who will join us a bit later in the show to talk about all this. Anyway, Mr. McCarthy and his Republican House are insisting that any increase in the debt ceiling be accompanied by significant budget cuts, new spending caps, and new sequestration penalties in the form of automatic spending cuts should the caps be breached. My own view is that Mr. McCarthy is absolutely right. Both the economy and the country are clamoring for more limited government, limited spending, and borrowing in order to promote economic growth and reduce inflation. In short, I say, save America, stop spending. For what it's worth, by the way, a recent Rasmussen poll shows 56% of Americans would rather see a partial government shutdown until Congress can agree to cut spending or just keep it the same. Just 34% would rather avoid a partial shutdown and would authorize more spending. The issue isn't really a partial government shutdown so much as some sort of a debt default on the interest payment on U.S. Treasury bonds. A shutdown could come into play. But most Americans are mindful of the fact that the Biden Democrats have legislated nearly $5 trillion of new borrowing scheduled over the next 10 years. It's a gigantic number. My key point is overborrowing is a big problem. But the root cause of the debt binge is overspending. Overspending by an ever-expansive government is one of the chief causes of the stagnation of economic growth and prosperity over the past 3 decades. As I've said before, for more than 50 years after World War II, the U.S. economy, adjusted for inflation, increased by 3.5% per year, the envy of the world. But since the year 2000, that number has slumped to less than 2% yearly, just stagnation. This has robbed an incredible $9 trillion of economic output, and if it continues another 10 years, it could cut prosperity by another $8.5 trillion. As a free market capitalist, I believe government spends too much, taxes too much, regulates too much, and inflates the currency too much. Massive social welfare spending without any work requirements is another huge problem. And remember, all these new government programs, especially in the last couple of years, come with enormous regulatory strings attached, which have literally strangled growth. Entire industries, from energy on down, have been blunted by government-created obstacles, punishing success rather than rewarding it, redistribution rather than growth. In the high-growth post-war period, federal spending as a share of the economy averaged 18.9%. Over the past 20 years plus, that has grown to an average yearly of 21%. The most recent tally is 24% of GDP. In the year ending in February 2020, pre-COVID, Uncle Sam was spending about $4.6 trillion on the budget. 2 years later, that number has jumped to $6.3 trillion and rising. Doesn't even include the $600 billion in student loan cancellations. This cannot continue. The rapid rise in the size and scope of the federal government is undoubtedly the single biggest prosperity killer, and recent policy going in the wrong direction. That's why it's time for another showdown. The U.S. government will never default on its debt, ever. There's more than enough revenues to cover those interest payments, which themselves are getting way too high. Debt showdowns, however, occurred in 1986, 1997, and 2011. They were debt and government shutdown showdowns. But in each case, The showdowns were finally concluded with sizable reductions in federal spending and borrowing. So how about former CEA Chair Kevin Hassett's idea of $3 of spending cuts for every $1 of increased debt? A little bit of D.C. swamp suffering, pain? Yeah, absolutely. It takes what it takes to right the ship. But all the blather about deficit defaulting is a canard. It's a red herring. It'll never happen. What will happen if Speaker McCarthy and Republicans, and maybe Democrats too, if they decide it's time to limit government and turn prosperity killers into prosperity creators for the good of the country. How about that idea? So I will conclude. Save America. Stop spending. All right? That's my little riff for this evening.